The woman caught in adultery. During this visit to Jerusalem, it happened that Jesus was forced to handle a case of alleged adultery. A woman was brought to him by his enemies. The distorted account that you possess of this incident suggests that this woman was brought before Jesus by the scribes and Pharisees, and that Jesus treated them in such a manner as to imply that these religious leaders of the Jews themselves could have been guilty of immoral behavior. However, consider that these scribes and Pharisees, though spiritually blind and intellectually prejudiced, must be regarded as among the thoroughly moral men of that time and generation. What really happened was the following. The Sanhedrin expected that Jesus would return to the temple, and they had set a trap for him. When Jesus approached the temple early in the morning on the third day of the festival, he encountered a small commotion. The people had supposedly arrested a man and a woman caught in the act of adultery. As they came closer, their spokesman said, "Master, this woman was caught in adultery by her husband. The law of Moses commands us to stone such a woman. What do you say we should do with her?" The plan of his enemies was that if Jesus upheld the law of Moses and allowed her to be stoned, he would thereby go against the authority of the Roman rulers, who had denied the Jews the right to execute the death penalty without the approval of a Roman court. If he forbade stoning the woman, they could accuse him before the Sanhedrin of placing himself above Moses and the Jewish law. But Jesus handled the case in such a manner that the entire plot fell apart by its own weight. The husband of this woman was an old acquaintance of Jesus. He had also grown up in Nazareth and had often caused Jesus trouble in his youth. After this man and woman were married, he shamelessly forced her to earn their living through prostitution. He had come to the festival in Jerusalem due to the many male visitors attracted by the Feast of Tabernacles. And now this heartless man had been hired by the Jewish plotters to accuse his own wife of adultery. They had supposedly caught the woman and her accomplice in the act and brought them forcibly to Jesus, hoping to entice him into making a statement that could be used against him if he were arrested. Jesus looked over the people and saw her husband standing behind the others. He knew what kind of man he was, and Jesus immediately understood that he was part of this despicable scene. Jesus resolutely walked around the people, directly toward him. He did not speak a word but stooped and wrote a few words on the ground. The husband felt uneasy and, ashamed, fled. Then Jesus walked over to the woman, stooped again, and wrote something on the ground that her so-called accusers could take to heart. After reading his words, they also left one by one. And when the master wrote on the ground for the third time, the adulterer left too. When Jesus stood up again, he said lovingly, "Woman, where are your accusers? Is there no one left to stone you?" The woman looked up and answered, "No one, Lord." And then Jesus said, "I know of you, I do not condemn you either. Go in peace." And this woman left her wicked husband and was taken in by the disciples of the kingdom.